Sir, of course, I want to ask you before we move into the EU conversation, because I know you have a lot to say on that front. When you look at the military aspect of this, can you give us an update in terms of the situation on the front? I know that you've said in Donbas now it is a very tense fighting on a daily basis.
Yes, Maria, right you are. The situation is still difficult in the Donbas because we talked with you several times. It's really the battle of the Donbas, and they put much hope in that it will bring any effort to this campaign, which for them is absolutely without any significant victories. So now the level of concentration of Russian armed forces in the Donbas around cities of Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, Bakhmut is really intense. And they outnumber Ukrainian armed forces. They outnumber us in equipment, in military equipment, and weapons, in manpower, definitely. But right you are, we are managing to withstand and even to make counteroffensives, like it's happening in some parts. The same is about other eastern regions. In the Kharkiv region, Ukrainian armed forces are managing to counter-attack, though, unfortunately, the city of Kharkiv itself is severely shelled, and you know that many people returned to Kharkiv already. So that's why it's really difficult, and much depends. Again, I will not be tired to say this, on the immediate supply of heavy weaponry to this part of Ukraine, meaning from our Western partners immediately to Ukraine and then to the east of Ukraine, heavy weapons, artillery system, MLRS, armored vehicles, in order to have us for capacity for us to start our counteroffensive and liberate the Donbas.
And of course, you know, you often hear, well, maybe Ukraine should just think about ceding some of the territory. I know you've told me many times we're not going to give away an inch. And if you look at the surface on a map, you're talking about essentially the size of Portugal. So these are not just tiny villages that Ukraine is fighting for. This is a significant amount of land. But I do wonder, you know, in the next week, you still say you're waiting for weapons. Do you have any idea when they're coming? Who's providing what? The Germans say they want to help more. Is that really the reality on the ground when you look at the amount of weapons that you get?
Well, first of all, I will reiterate my position, which I told you previously. No, we will not trade and we will not cede any inch of territory, especially Donbas. You know how important Donbas for Ukraine. As far as the weapons are concerned, right, the countries are moving in this direction, but slowly, unfortunately. You mentioned Germany, right? They are starting to the procedures of delivering, but unfortunately not that quick as we are waiting from them. Some other partners, some other Western partners are much more quick and much more intense in numbers, such as US, for instance, or UK. But we count on Germany, we count on the rest members of the European Union, count on France, we count even on such countries as Spain and Portugal. And we never talk about some weaponry which will undermine the defense capabilities of those countries. We just need the surplus amounts of weapons, the surplus amounts which are not used, or maybe somewhere stored in the warehouses, or maybe outdated for these countries. But for us, there will be immediate need of immediate importance to defend our territory.
And Mr. Zhovka, the other big issue here, of course, is the grain and the blockade on food. We're talking about a real food hunger crisis by the end of the year. You're saying this is entirely in the hands of Vladimir Putin. It's his fault. The Russians say this is the weapons. Do you see any agreement that perhaps could liberate some of those exports? Or is the situation really stuck in ports that are still right now controlled by Russia?
Well, we don't need any major agreement. The procedure will be very simple. We are ready to give our grain in our ports and even our vessels, or there may be any other vessels of any other third countries, and they should provide the safe corridors. They should provide the ceasefire, and there should be countries guarantors to this ceasefire, because unfortunately we cannot trust Russians. So that's why my president keeps talking on this issue to President of the European Council, Charles Michel, to UN Secretary General, to his fellow colleagues, leaders of the European Union countries, to the president of Turkey, for instance. So we are ready, but again, our efforts are not suffice. We need to combine our efforts.